Broad Street Sports, the best Philly sports podcast.
Philadelphia 76ers have officially sounded off every possible alarm imaginable after that disastrous, pathetic loss down there in Miami, which, by the way, they were up by 20 points at one point. They were up by 20 points and ended up getting absolutely whooped down there in Miami. And then that causes them to officially light up the lights up inside their heads and say, hey, we need to have a team meeting. And that team meeting resulted in players attacking each other, players attacking Joel Embiid, especially Tyrese Maxey, which we'll get into. The Sixers have officially hit rock bottom. And it has taken 13 games into the year to get to this point. The Sixers are 2-11. I don't think they've won a ball game at home. They can't score over 100 points. They have the lowest scoring and percentage in the league. They can't hit three-pointers. They cannot do quite literally anything. The chemistry is actually non-existent. And we're at the point where a team meeting is the best that the Sixers can do right now. That's the best the Sixers can do right now, is a team meeting. And I think it's quite pathetic. And it's quite pathetic because it is. Every little bit of the team meeting, every ounce of that team meeting revolves around Joel Embiid and Joel Embiid's selfishness, Joel Embiid's unreadiness, Joel Embiid's wanting to not play. This all revolves around what Joel Embiid wants to do. Because when Joel Embiid's not on the court, you can obviously see that the Sixers are not the team that they're supposed to be. They can obviously see that the Sixers are not as good as they are with Joel Embiid on the court. So, I mean, you're at the point now. You're at the point where changes need to be made. Things need to be said. Players are fed up. Players came to the Sixers. Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson. These guys all came to the Sixers because they were told that this was a new era. This was a super team. When you sign Paul George and you extend Joel Embiid, who's supposed to be an MVP, who's supposed to be the guy to take you to the promised land, you told them this is why they should come here. But instead, those two guys aren't on the court. They're not on the court. Paul George, his body's on the court, but he's mentally not on the court. He can't make shots. He looks absolutely non-existent. Joel Embiid, he doesn't want to be on the court. He doesn't even care to step onto the basketball court. He doesn't want to step onto the court. Then when he does, he's dropping 11 points with no foul shots. He can't bang down a baseline jumper. He can't bang down a floater. He can't do anything. Joel Embiid is a serious, serious problem. So, I mean, we're going to get into a lot of different things tonight because this is disastrous. And every imaginable way, the Sixers are crumbling. They are crumbling right now. It's such a disgrace. So here's the first thing I want to touch on. Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid for always being late last night during the team meeting. So from what I can tell, from what inside sources have said, Joel Embiid was late to the meeting last night in Miami. Joel Embiid is late to practices. Joel Embiid doesn't care. The fact that one of the youngest players on the team, which has taken the role as a leader because Joel Embiid doesn't want to be a leader, is attacking and sticking up for the rest of the team because one of the best players in the league doesn't want to step onto the court. From what I can tell, Tyrese Maxey is being the voice of the rest of the team and saying that Joel Embiid they're trying to put Joel Embiid in his place. They want to put Joel Embiid in his place because he has to. The team plays well. You need Joel Embiid on the court. You need Joel Embiid on the court. And so without Joel, this team is stumbling, fumbling, looking terrible. Looking terrible. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Doesn't. So again, I'm going to re-say this again. During the team meeting last night after the loss in Miami, and I can't even following the loss last night, the Sixers had a team meeting, and Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid for always being late, for being non-existent, for not being reliable. We're at the point right now where one of the youngest players on the team who has taken the leader role because the best player on the team doesn't want to take the leader role. Tyrese Maxey is being the voice of the team and going after Joel Embiid and trying to put Joel Embiid in his place. Because from what I can tell, he was late to the meeting last night. He's been late to practices. He doesn't want to play. He's unreliable. It's always me, and selfishness with Joel Embiid. This team is fed up with Joel. That's the best way of putting it. The Sixers are fed up with Joel Embiid from all possible different angles. They're fed up. They're fed up of having a guy that doesn't want to play next to him, because the least that Joel Embiid could do is show up on time, give his best possible effort. And he doesn't even do that. So I give kudos, I give praise to Tyrese Maxey for sticking up for him and the rest of the team and voicing the things that need to be said about Joel Embiid. I'm very happy. I'm very proud of exactly that. Exactly that. So we have a couple call-ins tonight, and they're all obviously on the issue of Joel Embiid and the Sixers and the team meeting last night. So we have our first call-in tonight, and this is from Pat. Pat, you are on.
Yo, what's going on, Ryan? Thanks for taking my call, man. I just want to talk a bit here about the team meeting that was discussed after the Sixers lost last night to the Miami Heat. I thought this was definitely needed from this team. However, I think they did it the wrong way. A team meeting definitely needed to be addressed 1,000%. However, the Sixers calling out each other, and specifically the MVP from a few years ago, Joel Embiid. You can't just say, that this team is 2-11 and it's on one player. Because it's not just Joel Embiid. I do think Joel Embiid has a bigger part on why this team, is where they are right now. But it's not just him. There are 5 guys on the court at one time. Doesn't mean that one guy is affecting you from being 2-11 versus maybe like 10-3 or something. Because this team has so much talent where you do not need to rely on one person. You have Paul George, Maxey, Embiid, McCain, Oubre has stepped up at times. The Sixers cannot be going after one another because that is going to make it worse. They need to figure out their issues, get those figured out, and they'll be fine. The team chemistry is at an all-time low. Look what the Phillies do. This team chemistry with the Phillies is amazing. The Eagles have great chemistry. But the Sixers chemistry has just never been there. This was not how the team meeting was supposed to go. I like the idea of it, but it wasn't the right way. Thanks for taking my call, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Pat. I understand what you're saying, but thank you for the call in, Pat. Here's the thing. Here's a couple main points I want to take out of what Pat said. First, he said not all of it is on Joel Embiid. And I absolutely 5,000 1,000,000% agree with that. There's a lot of leading factors of why the Sixers are playing like this, of why the Sixers are so bad, of the issues and the problems and the underlying issues revolving around the Sixers. It revolves around a big money man, Paul George, It revolves around Daryl Morey. It revolves around Josh Harris. But those are all little tiny itty-bitty pieces of what the Sixers' problems are. The Sixers' main problem, without a doubt, is Joel Embiid. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a majority of it is on Joel Embiid. Because when you have an MVP, a guy that's supposed to take you to the promised land, a guy that's supposed to do this, a guy that's supposed to score 35 points a night, and he doesn't want to play because he's being selfish, he's coming up with injuries, he doesn't want to play, that's on him. And that's rubbing off on the team. That's what's rubbing off on the team, man. That's that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different issues regarding the Sixers, but the 70% of this is on Joel Embiid. And it will always be on Joel Embiid. Because when you're face of the franchise and you played 3 games in 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, everybody's going to look at you. Everybody looks at the best player in the franchise. Everybody looks at the franchise player and looks and sees what they're doing. And they look and they make judgments on the team based on what the best player, what the franchise player says, what the franchise player does, how the franchise player plays. That's what it is. It's on Joel Embiid. It's mostly on Joel Embiid. And another topic that Pat touched on is he agreed with the meeting that went down. I absolutely 1,000% agree with that. But then he says, I don't think that the way they did this was the right way. And here's where I will agree with that. I know I'm gonna agree slightly. Here it is. I'm actually really happy that the Sixers teared in to Joel Embiid. They let Joel Embiid have it. They tried to put Joel Embiid in his place. Because here's the thing. That's what needs to be said. Because Joel Embiid doesn't respect the Sixers management. Joel Embiid doesn't respect Nick Nurse. So maybe, just maybe, he will respect what his teammates are saying about him. Maybe he'll respect the teammates' opinions on how much of a bum he's being right now. So I 1,000% agree with the way they took it up with Joel. But when it comes to the fact that they allowed that they aired their dirty laundry, that they allowed people to hear what they said about Embiid, that they allowed people to hear what they said about each other, not just on Joel, but on each other too, I thought that was a disgrace. You don't want to let reporters and fans and media hear what you air your dirty laundry. That's a recipe for disaster, because now this is totally blown up. Totally, So I will agree that this was needed to be done and that it should have been, that attacking Joel was the right thing to do. But I will agree that, you just cannot air your dirty laundry like that. You can't do it. You cannot do it. Oh, man. So there's actually a couple other points regarding these topics. So, we'll get into another one here. After Joel Embiid said, well, hold on. After Maxey called out Joel Embiid took what was said to him and then said, I don't know what the Sixers coaches expect to be executed out there on the court. I don't know what we're trying to execute out there on the court. Let me ask you this, Joel. I'm not too sure why you would know what the Sixers are trying to execute on the court when you're never on the court. I don't know why you would know when you played 3 games in 3.5 weeks. I don't know how you would know what the Sixers can want to execute when you're coming up with fake injuries and fake illnesses and only caring about yourself. I thought that was an utter disgrace. How do you not know what the team is trying to execute? Your team is 2-11, and you're not playing. You, Paul George, you're not playing. I don't get that. How do you not know what you're executing when you're 2-11 and you have the lowest scoring percentage in the league? You can't nail down 3-pointers. You can't do quite literally anything. So the only execution is that you have to score points. You have to drive the lane. You got to take good shots. You have to score. That's what it is. That's what the execution has to be, Joel. The execution has to be that they got to make shots. Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. Another thing that happened. Apparently, players have told Nick Nurse that he needs to push them harder. And then Nick Nurse responds and says that the Sixers players need to practice harder and practice with purpose. What in the hell is happening? We have players saying that Nick Nurse doesn't coach the team hard enough. Then we have the coach saying that the Sixers aren't practicing with purpose, that they're basically fooling around and not taking practice serious. Which you can obviously tell that they're not taking practice serious by the way that they're playing on the basketball court. They don't have stamina. They don't play with purpose. They don't play with urgency. They can't make shots. They have no ball movement. They can't play defense. So again, I think the Sixers players, Joel Embiid, Paul George, and whoever else, are sitting here and are afraid to take accountability for their play. I think the easy thing for them to do is to just go ahead and throw it on to the Sixers coaching staff. It's okay. They think it's okay to just throw it on Nick Nurse. It's not. Nick Nurse has every right to say that you guys aren't practicing with purpose and taking practice seriously, because it's a clear representation of what's happening on the court. What a disgraceful comment from the Sixers team. Disgraceful. I mean, it's actually ridiculous. And one last thing before we get to our last call in here. So another report that I saw. Joel Embiid was interviewed after the team meeting. And they asked him if there even was a team meeting. And Joel Embiid says, "Oh, what team meeting? I don't know. I didn't know about a team meeting." What in the hell are you talking about? You cannot be serious right now. You cannot be serious. What that tells me right there is that you have no accountability. That tells you that your teammates that you have no accountability. That they don't believe what the message is. That you're not going to take what your teammates said about you to heart. That's a disgrace. Whatever with this guy. It's always a song and a dance and a problem with Joel Embiid. I'm so over it. All right, so we're going to get to our final call in here. And it is from Vince. Vince has called in here before, but Vince, my main man, you are on.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about the team meeting with Joel Embiid. It's really just not a good look in terms of the franchise outlook, especially since we signed Joel Embiid for this 3-year deal extension on the 2 years left that he already had. So, I mean, it's really just not a good look obviously for Daryl Morey as the general manager, trying to assemble this team, getting a deal done with Embiid, and now he's late to meetings. He's not playing back-to-back games. He's faking injuries. He's got illnesses. It's not a good look for Daryl Morey as the manager of this team. It's not good for the owner, Josh Harris, no one likes Josh Harris, but it's not good for him either. But, I mean, specifically, Joel Embiid is failing this team as a leader. He is an former MVP, and he's playing to a lesser – he's playing worse than Andre Drummond was. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? You're supposed to be this MVP. You're supposed to be this great center. Not even great center, great player. And he's just not being the leader of the team, not being a voice of the team. When Tyrese Maxey, a younger guy who just got his 5-year Supermax, has to step up and hold Joel Embiid accountable, there's a real issue there because Joel Embiid is the veteran. There's so many veterans on this team. Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson's an older guard. I mean, we've got all these older players. Paul George, older player. But Tyrese Maxey, one of the youngest players on the team, is holding our veteran MVP level talent accountable. I mean, it's really just a joke for the Sixers franchise. It's a joke for Joel Embiid and his legacy.
Yeah, so, I mean, I absolutely agree with that statement. This is totally backfiring in the Daryl Morey and Josh Harris's face. This is blowing up in their face. Your MVP, your face of the franchise, the process is failing you. He's failing the team. He's failing the team. This is not a good look for Daryl Morey. This is not a good look for Josh Harris. He's getting outplayed by a bunch of centers. Not good. Not good. Joel Embiid he's useless. He's faking injury. He doesn't want to be out there on the court. He doesn't want to be there with his guys. And that's what irks me the most. But thank you, Vince, for the call. That's what irks me the most, is that he doesn't want to be out there with his guys. He's not a ride or die guy with his guys. And that's a problem. It's been a problem with Joel Embiid. It's been the problem his whole career. Oh, man. There's just a lot. There's a lot. And the last thing that I want to touch on is this. Joel Embiid, the face of the franchise, the process, is failing this team. He's failing, guys. He's failing this team. To the point where one of the youngest players on the team, Tyrese Maxey, is calling him out. It's a disgrace. Joel Embiid, his bad energy, his selfishness, his angriness, his me mentality is rubbing off on this team. And when you have a cancer to the locker room, when there's a cancer in the locker room, you cannot win. The MVP, the face of the franchise, the guy that's supposed to take you to the promised land, is rubbing off his bad cancer onto the team. And I'm not saying that he's fully 100% the reason why the Sixers are 2-11. A lot of guys aren't stepping up. But Joel Embiid is holding this team back. He's leaving bad energy on this team. And it will not be good until this Sixers team figures out what the hell they're going to do with Joel. Because it's not looking good. It's a disgrace. It is such a utter disgrace. But it was a long time coming. I was ready for it. The team was ready for it. Everybody knew it was coming. The Sixers sirened off the red lights and have a team meeting after they get that disastrous loss down there in Miami. But thank you all for tuning in to the podcast. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Have a good night.